Welcome one and all, and thanks for joining us. Today I am very excited to deliver what it will hopefully be an informative and also fun session for you all. I'm not going to be the type that will do a more traditional, just standard here's an info dump of everything you can find on the website. Being that you are all interested in becoming future data scientists, I assume that a majority of the information that is on the website that are more clear, I'm not going to spend too much time over because it's going to be a very boring session, and B, it'll insult our intelligence. So I'm just going to kind of go over some quick and easy details. First of all, you can find the syllabus of our curriculum on the bottom left. I'll go more into detail about that in a bit. I'll also address some of what seems to be the most voted upon options within the poll. I'm going to also adjust my webcam just a little bit. It looks like there's a blinding red glare on the light in my room. I apologize for that, folks. Also, some logistics that you should be aware of. You can do a various status on your specific avatar if you simply just click on your little face. In terms of the chat's attendee side, you can, for example, choose to raise hand, agree, disagree, all that stuff, speak louder, applause, and so forth. So you could go ahead and experiment with that a little bit right now if you choose to as well, in case you want to kind of save yourself chatting. Those are pretty easy things to basically give me a quick pulse of what's your thoughts without really having to type the whole thing, okay? I'll receive the alert right off the bat if you do, for example, raise your hand or hit agree or hit disagree and the like. Yeah, see that some of you guys are playing around with it right now. Okay, so let's get things started. Whoa, that's not the, I didn't mean to go to the end slide just yet. So I'll do a quick intro of who we are, but it looks like the majority of you guys are interested actually in both the beginning and the end of the bootcamp, what that process is going to be like, and I'd be happy to kind of cover that with you. I'll also, as I mentioned, you could download a copy of the curriculum on the bottom left for those of you who are interested in bootcamp curriculum. Even though it says the online syllabus is the exact same for both in-person and online, the two material covered are exactly the same. In terms of how you apply and the requirements, I'll get into that a little bit in terms of the prerequisite coursework as well. I'm very glad to see that most of you are interested in the prerequisite coursework simply because of the fact that, well, it tells me that you're thinking ahead in terms of how to get prepared. So let's kick things off here. Now, in terms of what we do and what to expect within the bootcamp, our specific bootcamp is set up to train you in essentially all the skills to become a data scientist upon graduation, as far as a generalist data scientist role is concerned. I will cover what that specifically means in terms of details, for example, things such as whether or not the bootcamp is the right fit for you, what are the realistic limitations of the bootcamp, and the like. So as you can see, we offer support for both R and Python, the two most common languages in the data science industry. There's a few others that, for example, you may have heard of: Java, Spark, Hadoop, and the like, Scala, and so forth. Those will be touched upon in various details, but I'll tell you that certain one of those languages are more specialized. For example, it may very well be that certain positions do require you to get some hands-on experience with Scala or Java or C, especially if you go more towards the engineering side. But those are not strictly covered within the curriculum. The curriculum, in terms of the two coding languages as it is already fairly dense and intense for students or as it is, but we find these the bare minimum in terms of maximizing your chances of getting into the job market. In addition, we also have a heavy emphasis on machine learning, so various techniques such as regression, classification, clustering, and the like. So about, I would say, 6 out of the 12 months, so a little bit of 1/2 of your bootcamp journey will be diving into the mathematical theorems and the applications of machine learning techniques. In addition, throughout the bootcamp journey, you'll also have guest speakers from the industry in terms of sharing their specific insights about how to get ready for the bootcamp journey itself. Finally, we also have a plethora of exams throughout the bootcamp, both a diagnostic early, have lab sessions of actual technical assessments, midterms, and the final exams is actually covering a good gamut of machine learning theory to ensure that you're ready for the job market once you exit this specific bootcamp. In addition, we also have an interview platform as well for our alumni, where students will have access to both the standard technical assessments you can expect to see across many different positions, but also certain industry and position specific technical assessments as well once you get past the initial barriers. We also cover a fair amount of other auxiliary topics you will need in the industry. We have 2 weeks dedicated to big data because we definitely are seeing it on the rise. We have general coverage and a high level coverage of NLP and deep learning, respectively speaking, mainly because those specific topics are specialized and not everyone can take advantage of them. So what we actually do is we have an auxiliary deep learning concentration course for alumni at a discount if they choose to explore that specific venue after the bootcamp journey. So, and for those of you who are interested in that, you can also take a look at what we have offered there under our short course on our website. Before I kind of go any further, I'd also like to introduce not only myself, but also Claire. So I'm the Student Success Officer at NYC Data Science Academy. You are likely to have the most interaction with me. Some of you already have interaction with me before in the past in terms of application, joining the bootcamp, enrolling, and so forth. Claire is the marketing manager. She is also going to be your first initial contact for those of you who are interested in either hiring our alumni or getting in touch with us in terms of corporate projects. I'll get more in depth about that, but you can feel free to also reach out to her. She'll also be assisting with various questions as well that I won't be able to potentially get to in terms of the chat. So feel free, if you have any questions about just general admin stuff and so forth, you can also let her know there. Okay, so in terms of the grand scope of what we are going to examine today, I'd like to show you guys some of the specific projects that students have worked upon in their journey throughout the bootcamp and take you through the 4 expected project expectations, examples of how students have conducted them in the past and what you're going to be capable of throughout the journey of this bootcamp. The majority of these projects have been selected from, actually, I believe all of them has been selected from our most recent cohort graduates. So you can also find them online on blog.nycdatascience.com, or you could go to our main website and go under student projects from there as well. The first initial project is going to be essentially all of these 4 projects are meant for you to demonstrate to an employer upon graduation that you can do all the day 1 tasks of a data science role. So as a result, the first specific project is meant for you to demonstrate not only can you create a working data science application for users to use, but also that you understand data visualization and exploratory data analysis. Data analysis, exploratory data analysis, specifically speaking, is one of the most key, I would say, skill sets you will need as a data scientist in the future, mainly because it is by and large, I would say anywhere from 60 to 70% of likely your day-to-day role. The second project is to, once you understood that you understand how to visualize data, you know how to work with data in terms of analytical skills from the stats side or the general exploring the data itself side, we also expect you to then demonstrate that you know how to acquire new data, hence the data wrangling project, which is web scraping using Python tools such as Beautiful Soup, Selenium, and Scrapy. So likely a majority of you have already noticed that the first specific project is R and the second project is Python. That's because we expect you to show proficiency in both languages upon graduation of the bootcamp. And as a result, the first 2 projects are in their individual specific languages. The third and the fourth project, we leave it up to the specific students and groups in order to choose what languages they choose to work with. Some of our students even go on the more technical front and choose to, for example, at that point, work with, say, Scala, Spark, even a little bit of C, and so forth. So the third project is a machine learning project. It's meant to demonstrate an understanding of the overall data science workflow. So from both all the way from the very beginning of exploratory data analysis toward the very end of implementing a variety of different machine learning techniques, as well as the theoretical understanding to back up why those techniques are relevant for the task at hand. Finally, the last project, the Capstone project, is of course meant for individuals to demonstrate their personal interest in the field. What distinguishes our particular bootcamp in this aspect is that, to my knowledge, we're the only bootcamp where we also have the ability to offer certain corporate partners projects to our students as their capstone proposals. So as a result, our students are able to gain real-world experience in terms of their capstone projects because they will be given potential real-world projects to work on. I unfortunately cannot show any of these today because of the fact that all of those projects, understandably, as you may expect, are locked under strict NDA clauses. You can find some of the blogs about them, but you'll also find that within the blogs themselves, they also will mention that they cannot go into the specifics of those specific projects due to NDA clauses. But it is extremely valuable, especially for students coming from a more stricter academics background without too much data science actual experience, to get a hands-on shot at these specific projects. For certain specific projects, due to the scope of the nature of the more corporate project, we at times also allow students to merge the third and the fourth project into one to make sure that their final corporate deliverable is a legitimate data science completed task. Nicholas, you have raised your hand. You feel free to ask a question from there. I enabled your mic, actually. So if you choose to want to ask your question via mic, you can also certainly do so. Or you can type. I can't hear you. Actually, I don't believe anyone can hear you on mic. All right, I'll just disable your mic for now, and I'll let you type. It looks like the mic's not quite working on your end. And yeah, throughout this specific talk, feel free to also ask as many questions as you'd like. I will make sure to cover them to the best of my abilities. So, as mentioned, a good amount of you were interested in both the prerequisite coursework as well as the requirements for the bootcamp, and also to tie them both together, whether or not the bootcamp is the right fit for you. In this interim, I'd also like to, while I'm awaiting Nicholas' question, I also like to see if I can do something about this light. Don't think I can, because I believe it's just the nature of the webcam. This looks like it's a little bit better, but this is the best I can do, unfortunately, for now. So in terms of just prerequisite coursework, the bootcamp actually already allows students to enroll into 3 different prerequisite courses to prepare them sufficiently for the bootcamp. They are R, data visualization and data analytical skills using the R language, as well as an introduction to Python, the coding language itself, and a data visualization course for Python as well. Some of you may wonder, why is the R not split up and the Python split up into 2? And that's specifically because of the fact that due to the more technical nature of Python, it's a bit more complex to pick up. So as a result, we actually divide the Python segment into 2, one of which it goes over the raw foundations, the second of where you understand how to use the language on a more data science use case. R, being a more strictly built for analytical academic tool, lends itself a lot easier to students who are looking to just jump right into data science without much of a coding background. In terms of the requirements for, in terms of student background, I will say a majority of our students do tend to be from the STEM field, and I would say roughly over 1/2 of them are PhDs or masters holding those degrees, with the remaining being bachelors. Now, very often students will ask me, or candidates prospectively will ask me, is a bootcamp the right solution for them? And to be honest, that's a very good question. And as the time progresses, you may be shocked to find that my answer will actually be no. It really depends on what you're looking for. But a bootcamp solution really only suits a specific type of individual, one that is especially motivated, dedicated to joining and entering the industry, but doesn't have the same timeline to, say, pursue a more long-term academic study. Or, for example, students who are looking to go into a more long-term academic study, but looking for something to prep them into it. So what does that mean? What are the most common success cases of students who are going to enter the bootcamp? As mentioned before, folks with backgrounds within the academic fields themselves, specifically a PhD or a master's in the STEM field, makes it a lot easier for us to get you a position within the data science realm upon completion, because really all those students need is a boost of how to use industry applications of their specific data science knowledge. Additionally, the other most successful student archetypes are the ones who are on the bachelor's end, but relatively younger and greener in their field. So as a result, those students are looking more for something to give them a foothold in the industry, or something that allows them to equip themselves with the prerequisite knowledge to make a successful transition into a graduate academic study. So those two, I would say, are our most successful and standard student use cases. We do also get a good amount of students who are looking to transition from another industry into the field. If you are those type, fall under those branch, and it is very likely a majority of you actually are, you do want to apply as early as possible. The main reason why is it gives us more time to actually examine your profile, take longer time to actually take a look at what we can do for your specific individual case, because those are generally speaking a more case-by-case study. For certain applicants, unfortunately, the bootcamp is not a magic solution, and certainly not ours. So we won't necessarily be able to actually be the right fit and the right solution for you to enter the field. In which case, we can give you the earlier recommendations of what you can do to still get involved while you're still earlier and younger in your timeline. For others, it can very well be that if we guide you into the correct direction enough earlier on in the stage, you will be able to target and position yourself well enough to succeed in both the bootcamp and the post-bootcamp journey. The last thing you want to do is apply very, very late, where we don't have too much time to get you prepared, and then try to make a snap judgment of whether or not you can succeed in the bootcamp on the spot, and then sometimes those judgments can very well have issues with them. So now to address, Nicholas, your specific question. Yes, students can certainly use company API, Twitter, Yahoo, and so forth, especially for their specific, if that is their specific industry preference to pivot towards. One thing we do very heavily emphasize in the curriculum is gearing our students towards more industry standard projects. So as a result, you'll notice that each of the projects I am going to demonstrate today has an applicational use in the real world. And on top of that, it is something you can actually deliver as a legitimate data science project, rather than something that just looks more artificial from more academic use, or will raise a few eyebrows. One example of what I mean is we caution students away from projects that seem too ambitious and too much of a buzzword. What are good examples of this? I've seen student projects in the past from previous either other bootcamps or even our specific bootcamp previously, where students have offered projects such as lofty goals, such as within 3 weeks they claim they have designed algorithms for self-driving motorcycles and or similar aspects. And I will state that while for example, those who are newer into the field, that looks certainly very impressive. But to anyone with even the barest knowledge of data science industry is likely to raise a few eyebrows. It is highly unlikely that somebody who will be able to take on tasks that companies such as Uber, Google, Tesla, IBM, and the like haven't been able to do with entire data science teams within the realm of 3 months. Or even shorter for the capstone duration, it would be within 3 weeks. As a result, we caution students to actually scale their project so that they build upon it step by step, but also the most important thing is that they are delivering a project that has legitimacy and they can actively discuss to all front ends to a prospective employer. There are information for how to apply and so forth here, but before we go too much in depth about this specific page and these specific links, I'd like to actually demonstrate some of the student projects throughout the bootcamp and from the previous cohorts. Now, while I do screen share, I won't be able to see the specific chat box. However, feel free to ask the questions throughout within the chat box, but Claire will be able to cover them, and I will be able to cover them as well after I finish sharing these specific projects. Okay, so, all right. Now, everyone should be able to see what looks to be a blog page. And that's because each of our specific students are expected to not only have a completed project, but also a blog that is written to go through the entire workflow of the project as well as findings. So this is a quick sample demonstration. In addition, you can find that in these various blogs, a link to the specific app and discussion will also be provided. Let me see if I can find this specific one. Okay, over here. So the first project I'd like to demonstrate is, unsurprisingly, the very first project assigned. It is built entirely in R. It takes a little while to load simply because of the fact that it is generating a map, but also because it is going through the free Shiny app server itself. So this specific student decided to build an app that is using the city bike data of New York City. And what I found most interesting about this project was the innovative approach he took in terms of the visualization itself. And allow me to demonstrate. So what you're seeing here is actually a live demonstration of what is occurring throughout the 24 hours of the day in New York City of the various city bike activities. The different colors of the various data points are suggestive of different activity types that is discussed more in detail within the blog, but also the most popular routes as well. This entire project was completed within 2.5 weeks. In addition to that, within the app, there's also, of course, more strict data analysis that the user may choose to peruse on their specific time. So for example, these specific aspects of the data itself. So this is one of the examples of the first project that a student has completed. Note, this student did not have a very technical background. Actually, she was a consultant at PwC prior to joining the bootcamp. Our second project was potentially a bit more intimidating due to the scope of this project for the first project. The reason why is actually this particular student was already working as a data scientist when he is enrolled within the bootcamp. So you can kind of tell the range of different abilities within the bootcamp that you can expect. So as a result, his project was a lot more thorough for just the very first project. So allow me to demonstrate. Once again, this specific project will take a little while to load simply because it is on the free Shiny server. So this is an airline recommender where, for example, users can potentially select what routes, what they were interested in, which airlines they would choose to get more information about, and it'll totally map out those specific details for you. So let's get off Delta, let's look at Alaska. Let's look at American, for example, and so forth. And this, I believe, also gives the amount of labels for it. In addition, it will also allow the user to have an evaluation of the performance per route, as well as demonstrate the expected taxi time upon exiting the airline as well. And you'll notice it does a comparison across different airlines. And finally, insight into the US operated airports as well throughout the day. This is operating on the more standard international time, so it's on a 24-hour scale, as you can see here. So both of these were the very first projects completed by students within the bootcamp. In fact, both of them have graduated from the prior cohort. You can find them respectively speaking. Their names are Summer Sun and Stephen. I can't pronounce it, unfortunately, his last name. I don't want to mangle it. Interestingly enough, I was the TA for Stephen throughout the bootcamp, so I definitely don't want to mangle his last name. Both great fellows. In terms of the web scraping project, I'm going to pick one from the cohort that graduated from the previous one, because I found this one of the most impressive projects that was completed within the second project. So this specific student, he has a PhD in nanoscience. He was also employed upon 1 week of graduation. He met the recruiter from National Grid at our hiring event the following Wednesday of graduation, received an interview on Friday. Monday was given an offer and started work almost immediately. He's also now their technical interviewer for their data science team at National Grid. So what Samuel decided to do was scrape parts picker and build an app with the data after scraping it to make a part recommender tool. So as a result, users can choose different parameters of their desired computer, and it will recommend specific parts for them based upon those parameters. What impressed me the most about this specific project was not only the detail that went into it, but even more, as I stressed before, we care very heavily about legitimacy within the bootcamp and legitimacy of all these projects. We want them to be real industry deployable work. So what impressed me the most about this specific project was the fact that Samuel also took into account that in certain calibration settings, it can cause the computer to overheat and essentially just melt down if certain part combinations were selected. So as a result, this specific app will not let you recommend those specific part combinations because he also took that into account. So it went one step beyond just a standard, just a collection of data. So once again, this was an example of a web scraping project that can be completed. So we can choose to, for example, prioritize in this specific project. I believe we can choose to prioritize price, and it will recommend, of course, one of the cheapest builds that you can get for this specific pod. I'm going to demonstrate both the capstones as well as the machine learning projects 2 in 1, because I'd like to kind of talk about the general workflow of what we expect for a machine learning project. So for this specific project, I felt that this group has done the most thorough job in terms of their machine learning project. This was a capstone project among 4 different students. You can also find a presentation recording of this specific project on our YouTube channel as well. I believe they are called Team CGA. The volume may be a little inconsistent. I apologize for that specific YouTube presentation. But I think for anyone who is interested in understanding the workflow of a full machine learning project from start to completion in a very thorough manner will find a lot of valuable insight in the coverage of that specific project. So this specific project was using the cancer data set on Kaggle, where I believe the entire data set was completed of medical text. So as you can see, this specific project went through the entire journey, starting from EDA, feature engineering, their specific findings, visualization of the text aspect, the methods used including natural language processing tools, the various models deployed as well as the research behind them, including deep learning models that were built as well. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find one of the what I thought was the most industry relevant tools that this team has developed. This team also created, as part of this project, a Django database that medical researchers can query for research articles in relation to just few specific terms that they place in, and it will pull research articles that seem most relevant to those terms for them based upon the data set itself. You can learn more about that specific platform if you join if you look up the specific talk on the YouTube channel itself. It looks like there's a question here. Oh, yeah, they are great projects, Nicholas. I absolutely agree. So in terms of capstones, another capstone project that I found very, very impressive. This was a two-person project. And speaking of two-person project, and as you noticed, the previous was also a team-based project. If you are joining the in-person bootcamp, I have actually proposed a format for our team in the future where we are making it so that every single capstone project will be a mandatory group project as well. So the third and the fourth project are mandatory group projects. The reason why is for a few different reasons of success upon the bootcamp journey, which is, first, we find it's very important that students can demonstrate they can work with a team of data scientists. This is very likely going to be a skill and a role they are to play in their future data science journey. In addition, I tend to find that the most impressive projects has always been delivered by groups within the capstone. And this is not to say we don't have some very, very great solo capstone projects. We certainly do. In fact, there's one that, for those of you who are curious, if you were to look up, his name is Carlos Salas. He did a very, very thorough capstone project using NLP to predict stock forecasts. However, I've also found that students who have completed a solo project tend to be very intimidated by the scope of what a group project have done, and as a result, feel more nervous when they are presenting their individual projects. And I found that just does a great disservice to their individual efforts. And in addition, it is more likely that a group project will outshine an individual project just due to the raw amount of hands and manpower a group project is able to command. We do absolutely want the capstones to be the best projects that students can proudly deliver to a prospective employer. But in addition, if a student is to work on a more corporate assigned project for their capstone, one where they will, and these corporate projects, usually students will get an introduction to these corporate projects around week 6 or 7 of the bootcamp, where these specific companies will come in and propose their specific project details. We absolutely want to make sure that students are doing great work, and we will assign specific instructor guidance and mentorship over these projects in terms of the specialization required for these specific projects. So for example, if the project encompasses big data, we will have our specific instructor who specializes in big data mentor all teams who are handling those specific projects. Similarly, if the project requires NLP, they will assign an instructor who specializes in NLP to mentor that specific project. I'll talk more specifically about the instructor breakdown and so forth in a bit following these specific project introductions. So this capstone project was a car recommender. And once again, the details of the specific algorithms and why this car recommender can be trusted as a legitimate model is given within the blog. We don't simply just want students to say, I built X and you can trust the black box that works within it. We want it to be very definable that you can trust the model's applications based upon the research given. So once again, it'll take a little while to load. Now, overall, what this project will do is, if you give it a moment, if you select various specific specs, it will make a recommendation for you. You can also choose to say, enter something like 200 horsepower for it to actually select those specific parameters. It'll take a little while for it to load this specific, make a specific recommendation. I believe I actually have to hit a recommend here. Oh, there we go. Oh, it may be recommending something else because I just selected a new parameter. Well, regardless, I'm going to talk about this specific project as it is. There should have been a picture that loaded, but I believe it's just taking a while because, once again, hosted on the free Shiny server. So what the model behind it, oh, here we go. What the model behind it will do is it will recommend a price, or rather it will recommend a model of the car with price, CO emissions, and fuel. These are all predicted via the machine learning model in the underneath. You'll also notice it's going through different models right now, but that's because I hit the recommend button about 3-4 times, so it's kind of processing all of that. So overall, you'll think, well, this is a fairly standard car recommendation engine. It looks good, but what makes it a real data science project? Obviously, there is, as I mentioned, machine learning underneath the hood, these specific predictions about the specs itself. But what is most impressive is the fact that this is industry deployable simply because if the user chooses to click this like button, what it will do is then store these specific parameters from the user recommendation and store it within its data set through an SQL database, into its SQL database. So as a result, it will capture new data as different users use this app and use that new data to refine the model's predictions. User can also decide to swipe left, swipe right for different suggestions if they didn't like the first. So as you can see, this is what I meant by what we expect from our students within their capstones. Actual industry deliverable projects that you can demonstrate as, I understand the scope of data science and I can do real data science work. Finally, the last example, another project is an automated essay grader. So once again, the methodology is covered within the blog, and a link of it should be around here. Nope, the link of it should be around here. Here we go. This app will take especially, unfortunately, longer than even all the others to load. It is hosted on, for those of you who know, the free platform Heroku app. But in addition, there's the model is very large and computationally expensive. So as a result, it allows you to select one of a few different essay topics, and what it will do is, as a user writes an essay, hits grade me, it takes a while to once again grade because there is an NLP model running behind the scenes. So what it will do is first convert these specific text, feed this specific text into the model, and generate a prediction. Well, something went wrong with, I believe, this model looks, this essay, I think this prediction went completely off. In the past, it should have graded an F. I'm not certain why it states that the most confident prediction is a D. But you'll notice what it also does here is give a probability breakdown of what the model thinks the grade deserves. So as you can see, it still believes it has a 31% chance of deserving an F, 55% chance of deserving a D, 10% chance of doing an incomplete, and you'll notice very minimal chances of any higher grade. It'll also calculate through an API very specific other metrics regarding the specific essay as well. So once again, this is another Capstone project. This is an automated essay grader. You'll also find the technical model and the explanation as well within the blog, but also technical info here. Okay, let me now abandon the screen share. And let's flash back to our previous screen. So hopefully everyone enjoyed those specific projects, took a look at how they were, and what is expected in terms of the journey within our data science bootcamp. You should definitely not feel intimidated by those specific projects, because you have to recognize each of those projects were created by students within the bootcamp and taught the tools of how to do those specific projects. So every one of you will be just as capable of performing those specific tasks as well. For those of you who are curious about all those specific projects and or other projects in greater detail, you can definitely explore the blog on the link here. For those of you who are interested in more general data science details about our bootcamp, you can also, of course, click the apply, and I'll be happy to book a conversation with you. Finally, you'll also be able to view our YouTube channel for both other student presentations in the past, but also you'll find some exciting guest speakers who have visited our academy before, such as, well, just some very big names. I don't really want to name drop because I just find a poor form to do. And of course, my contact info as well. I'd now like to take the time to bounce back to the lobby to also take any questions folks may have and things I may not have covered and missed. So please type any questions you have about in regards to the details of either a bootcamp or anything that we've gone through. I see a lot of folks typing right now, so I'm going to give it a minute or so. While I'm waiting for the chat to come on in, I'm also going to cover actually one of the post bootcamp journey. I haven't quite touched upon that in now that I think of it. So in terms of the post bootcamp journey, what the support that you can expect to gain upon, say, especially speaking job support, is pretty intensive. By week 6, we will already be delivering job placement workshops within the bootcamp. They're going to be from 1:20 to 2 o'clock every Mondays, starting by week 6, where we'll cover not only how to properly apply to data science positions, what you need to know about the data science industry when you're attempting to enter, as well as resume review, LinkedIn review, and the like. In addition, upon graduation, there is also a hiring event, as well as ample opportunity of alumni referral, hiring partner referral, and the like. In fact, we go so far to make sure that you are going to get that before you apply to a position you're really, really vested in, say a Spotify or Goldman Sachs and the like. We actually ask you to let us know first with the link of what you are looking to apply, as well as your cover letter and your resume. And what we do is we tap into our network first to give you a direct referral to those specific companies. So as you can see, it's no surprise that our job placement numbers are among one of the, I believe it is actually currently the highest among all data science boot camps, especially within the 3-month metrics. That I feel very, very secure about, simply because of the fact that I've compared the numbers to some of the best coding boot camps that we know. The reason why I was only able to compare our numbers to other coding boot camps and not data science boot camps is coding boot camps are required to report their numbers on their very strict process called CIRR. And I've noticed that our specific 3-month numbers have been, within 3 months of graduation, over 70% of our graduates have been placed into a data science role. And within 6 months, over 90%. And those numbers are significantly higher than even some of the very, very great coding boot camps out there. In terms of, so I'm going to address some of the specific questions here now, just kind of go down the row. So in terms of, if your background is not quite in the field of data science, but you're looking to gain data science skills to upgrade your skill sets to essentially enhance what you're already doing in your day-to-day job, the bootcamp's totally fine. We have plenty of students where literally they took the bootcamp, they went back to their previous position, and usually these students tend to be corporate sponsored as well. We've had 3 students just in the prior bootcamp who were sponsored by, I believe, McKinsey, Capgemini, and I don't recall one of the others. And essentially, they're expected to just get a skills upgrade. and return with that skills upgrade to their role or a more elevated role in the past. So it's totally fine if you have a background in HR and you're looking to make a career in HR analytics. We will give that support. Among our entire team, our team has been, our full-time team has been with us for a very, very long time. So they're all veterans in the process, and they've been through this, they encompass a variety of different backgrounds. So while I won't promise that each individual of them may be able to answer your specific question, I guarantee you if you have a question about data science, someone on our team is able to answer it, no matter how niche it may be. In terms of for the deep learning class and machine learning class with Python, there is no formal application process for taking both to my understanding. However, I will heavily recommend that before you take the machine learning class in Python, you absolutely do need to have a good foundation of linear algebra, understanding how vector calculations, gradient descent, stochastic gradient descent specifically, and also have some comfort level established with Python. You don't need to be a complete software engineering whiz, but you do need to be comfortable with using pandas at the very least, and proficient in manipulating data frames. For example, being able to do all the standard old school Excel functions in Python. For deep learning, I would say it goes even one step further. You can take it for purely academic self-study. That's totally fine. But if you're really, really looking to make a lot of leverage with it, you essentially need to already have a very thorough understanding of linear regression. And I mean by that is you understand the theory, all the theory behind it, and all its applicational use, as well as knowing how to use Python. And it does help if you've done the TensorFlow tutorial on Google. Google has a TensorFlow tutorial for free for folks looking to jump into deep learning. I highly recommend it for those of you who are looking to gain entry into that field. In terms of what is the latest deadline to apply for the January bootcamp, so our deadlines are fairly malleable because it ultimately depends on the background of the individual. So for example, for folks with a PhD in computer science or say applied mathematics, if you apply, say, 3 weeks before the start of the bootcamp, you're probably going to get in because you just have such a strong background. It doesn't take you much to get ready for the bootcamp. But if your background is a bit more standard, it's just a standard master's or a PhD or even a bachelor's in the STEM field, you absolutely want to try to get in your application before Thanksgiving. First of all, it makes my life a lot easier. I know that I feel more comfortable accepting students if they have a good amount of time to prepare for the bootcamp. But in addition, there are a lot more available seats, which means I don't have to make the very difficult call of whether or not you will be able to make it in the bootcamp, or you're potentially taking a seat from a future very strong applicant. And those decisions are very difficult for me. Finally, our in-person pre-work courses that are offered to our bootcamp students for free start the first week of November. So if you are enrolled, confirmed and enrolled as a bootcamp student before the first week of November, you're able to take advantage of our in-person pre-work courses. And they're certainly very, very valuable because for those of you who don't have much of the traditional data science background, because it gives you ample time to prepare with a live instructor that you can show code to, ask questions to, and get on-spot answers. Our pre-work course is also offered online in terms of more standard Coursera-style online curriculum, so pre-recorded lectures, modules, and so forth. However, if you're able to make it to the in-person one, I highly recommend you to, because it's just very, very valuable, and our instructors are all excellent. No problem. For those of you who are looking to apply finally, don't be intimidated about the application process. I look for very simple things for folks looking to make it into the data science background or into our bootcamp. The number one thing I look for, believe it or not, is just whether or not you are a friendly and motivated individual. The former may seem strange, but the goal of our bootcamp is to make sure that you all get jobs upon graduation of the bootcamp. Unsurprisingly, people don't want to work with jerks, no matter how great their background is. So it's a lot easier for us to get you a job if you're a friendly individual. In order to succeed in the bootcamp, you need very simple 2 factors. You have to be motivated to learn, and you have to be, well, you have to have the aptitude to do it. But your aptitude to learn is not as important as your motivation to succeed in the bootcamp. Why? Because we have a very, very, very rigorous content, and I stand by the quality of our curriculum. We can make it work for a lot of individuals. All you need to do is put in the hours. You might not be as good as, say, some of the other cohort mates you end up enrolling into. We have certainly very, very qualified and very outstanding students. But if you put in twice the amount of hours they do, you'll be able to get there, just if not exceed them. So as a result, I look for those 2 qualities the most within any applicant. Those are what I value the highest. In addition, those type of applicants tend to be great for this classroom environment as a whole. They raise everyone else's spirits up in the journey and make the journey overall of those 3 months exciting and fulfilling for everyone. And I tend to find that also very valuable as well. Any student who has visited or known our alumni or our graduates, and by the way, feel free to reach out to your alumni about their experience as well. You can find them on our webpage. We have a very extensive alumni webpage. And the reason why we have so many alumni listed is because we have a lot of happy students. And you also see the same results on course report, switch up, and the like. And it's no surprise. Our folks are really happy to help anyone along the data science journey. So feel free to reach out to them about their experience, but you'll find as a whole, the student body among our cohorts tend to be some of the friendliest, most humble folks you'll ever meet. You will not even recognize that some of them may have be coming from very lofty backgrounds and positions. So I look for those 2 factors as some of the most important. Other things I look for, whether or not we could get you where you want to go. If you are, say, enrolling as a bachelor's, fresh out of college, but what you're looking to do is do a stopgap between the program and, say, a graduate's degree in a more intensive field. That's going to make your requirement a lot easier. Why? I'm 100% certain we could get you there. If you are a PhD and looking for a more senior data science role and a very big firm, we're also going to fairly confident we could get you there. So we're also going to likely enroll you. If you're a bachelor's and you're looking with a non-STEM field and you're looking to become a chief data scientist at a large firm, we can't quite make that work. So that's an example of what I meant about the application requirements to keep in mind. We will talk about this in greater detail if you do apply, and we have a more intensive conversation about a more in-depth conversation about where your goals are looking to go in the application process. But those are just some things to keep in mind. Ultimately, we want to make sure we are the right fit for you, as in we are the answers you're looking for. But bootcamps are not a magic bullet. They're not going to be the one-stop ticket to get everyone to become a data scientist. It just isn't realistic. So ultimately, we also want to make sure that we're not wasting your time and money as part of the application process. So keep in mind that when you apply, you have nothing to lose. Chances are, if we can help you, and it's just not the right answer, I will be happy to make other suggestions, other directions of where you're looking to go. But we will try our hardest to make sure you succeed, though, if you do enroll. Looks like there's some folks with additional questions. Okay. I will actually try something as well. I'm going to see if I can, yeah. All right. So to make things a little bit easier, I have, whoops, that was the wrong button. Yes, online students actually are provided with the same career support, and they can participate in group projects with either each other or in-person boot camps. This is a little bit more complex to explain in terms of what we are able to offer online students. But it's especially helpful if you are if you're looking to do an online boot camp and you are not working full time, or your hours at work are more flexible. Mainly because our online bootcamp is also able to offer live stream integration of our in-person bootcamp, as well as online TA live support. So as a result, what that means is if you're an online bootcamp student and you're in the live stream, you can actually ask a question to the instructor who's teaching the course. And the TA in the online stream will either attempt to answer it, or if the TA can't, he will raise his hand in the classroom and redirect your question for the instructor for you. So you get the live feedback. So in terms of how will a student with negligible experience in R or Python cope with students with a stronger technical background? Ultimately, you have to recognize you got to play to your strength. Each and every one of you will have individual strengths and weaknesses, and you cannot look to try to pivot where you are comparing your weakness to someone else. So as a result, you may be stronger in the industry domain insight of where you work. You might be stronger in the soft skills. You might be stronger in the quantitative skills, and so forth. Or you can simply just be more motivated. All of those specific things are things you have to heavily lean on. I will actually state that, for the record, soft skills are one of the most important things in terms of the post-bootcamp journey to transitioning to a role. I've seen that as a rule, all of our earliest hires across our bootcamps has been those with strong soft skills. It's not necessarily the best coder or the best academic record or even the best work experience and academic combination. It has been those who know how to really take advantage of both their internal network and our network, and also know how to present themselves best. The bootcamp does give a workshop on also that specific guideline. That's a great question, Eric. I don't know off the top of my head. I would wager it's around 15% would have a CS background and intend to switch into data science. And I wouldn't say, so when you say, does data science offer a better career path, let's say comparative to software engineering or the more traditional, where they traditionally go? It's hard to say, because actually a good amount of computer science background folks are pivoting to the data science industry, because data science as a whole is a very nebulous field. It's literally like saying, oh, you're involved in data science, or you are involved in, say, education. Well, if you're involved in education, what does that mean? Are you a professor? Are you a tutor? Are you a TA? Are you a coach? Data science is kind of like the same thing. It's, are you a data engineer? Are you a big data specialist? Are you a research analyst? Are you business intelligence? Are you strategic analyst, etc.? Especially because now you're starting to see that as the field is starting to take a more crystallized shape, companies are starting to have data science positions that are a lot more specialist in terms of specific skill set. So it's really, instead of better career path, it's closer to what people want to do. For example, for students who are more comfortable in doing they want to just do their work and be the programmer and just create things and build things. It could be that they are more interested in software engineering. And as a result, software engineering can pay just as well as data science. And maybe their interest is in just building apps because they like to see how things tinker around with things. In which case, absolutely, they should just go down the more traditional software engineering route. But then there are students who are interested in just building things, but more specifically in how data works, or maybe data warehousing, or how data moves, or dealing with, say, how to deal with data challenges like streaming data, and incorporating that into for companies and to work with. In which case, data science would be a better route. Then there's simply students who are just saying, well, I'm not interested. I don't really have a preference to either. I like either. I'm just interested in doing work. I just want to get a job. In which case, I will say data science likely is a better route because by knowing how to not only have a strong technical front, but also the understanding of what the data science industry needs are and adding that onto it, they're competing with less people in that specific field because, well, their combination of skills is less likely to be shared across the expanse of just talent out there. There's a lot of folks with a strict software engineering background, and there's a lot less people with computer science background and a very good understanding of what data challenges are. So hopefully I covered that question to the best of my ability. But as I said, it's an excellent question, but it's very complex. It's not something that's easy to answer. All right, I just also noticed we are officially over time, but I am more than happy, Claire and myself are more than happy to stick around still to answer any questions you guys may have. But other than that, I'd like to thank you all for being a great audience, sticking out with us on this day, especially because of the fact that I'm well aware that the light is very distracting. I apologize for that. It was either shut off the light and make it look like I'm in a very dark, dank basement, or at least have a well-lit room, but unfortunately, potentially very distracting. And thank you all for being a great audience. Thank you, Nick. If you have no further questions, you can feel free to simply just log out and exit the room. Thank you all for attending once again, and have a great night. Great question. Actually, I should have covered that. Thanks, Sean. The in-person schedule is the intro course to Python. The introduction to Python is Monday, Wednesdays evenings. They're both evenings, 7 to 9:30. Correct me if I'm wrong, Claire. But I believe that's the schedule. And then the data analysis courses, the more advanced courses, are on weekends only. So the R one is 10 to 5 Saturdays. The Python one is 1 to 5 Sundays. Exactly. We understand that some folks are, well, we generally do recommend for folks who are working still, looking to do the bootcamp, for them to essentially ensure that their schedule is very open, actually even 1 month before the start of the bootcamp, to really get themselves adequately prepared for the bootcamp journey. We understand that folks, they got to make a living still. So and pay the bills. So as a result, we want our pre-work to be somewhat flexible for those for folks who are still working a full-time job but looking to get prepared adequately for the bootcamp.